Minnesota. So, our best goal here is to certainly educate and then supply masks, and that would be our first step. If they continue, we would move it forward to Tom's office, and as well as the state is going to find out, and then they hold their license. So if that continues, we certainly can do a lot of different things to help them comply if they're not taking our tips. But, reporting it to us is, crucial. As I stated in the email, and you all got that, it is a hard time for law enforcement. We have senior officers and sergeants from surrounding agencies that are retiring because of the demands. Most of the nation doesn't want law enforcement, any kind of law enforcement right now. So asking us to go out on an island and do that was going to be really hard as a senior 30-year career law enforcement officer to tell my officers to do that, because I'm just trying to keep them here, to be frank. Fine with it. I'm thankful that the governor did this, because now we're not on an island, and I'm all about making things safe, but it's really hard to adults that should be doing the right thing and keeping each other safe to tell them and throw a ticket on them. So moving forward, we'll absolutely educate them. We'll take the complaints. Keep in mind, if we're dealing with a criminal sexual conduct interview, which I was doing yesterday, it's going to take priority, and it might be, backlog. So call us, tell us, explain, anonymous, we'll address it. And adults that should be doing the right thing and keeping each other safe to tell them.
I also want to make sure that we understand what the businesses should do, because they may very well be following the rules, and as customers come in and they ask them to put on a mask, they could meet with some resistance as well. And I want to make sure that the businesses know what kind of steps they should take, because we don't want them to be put in any kind of harm either if they're following all the rules. So I don't know, Chief, do you have guidance and advice for that kind of situation?
Well, I'm thinking what I could do is just make a plan to meet with the owners or the managers and go over it. It's actually laid out fairly well, and what Adam sent, I actually sent that to I got it this morning because I knew it was coming out ahead of time, so we had time to review it. It's laid out, like if you're a server and you need to see somebody's face to verify that they're 21, it's laid out fairly well. So if you want me to, I'm fine with meeting with every business owner and explaining it to making sure they understand, because then they've been made aware, and I reached out to them. And sure, it might take me a while, but I'll just systematically, do that. And I'm happy to do time to review it.
I think that would be a great first step. That eliminates any lack of clarity or understanding, and definitely allows them to say if they need PPE or if they need other kinds of support, they would have that opportunity for you to bring that information back to us. So that would be great.
And sure, it might take me a while, but I'll just systematically.
If I could, Your Honor, if I could add something, compliance is key because it's a public health issue. And I think, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be on a complaint basis, that you're not going to be patrolling the streets looking and going into individual businesses to ensure compliance. I think the penalty for business owners or managers of $1,000, it's really a misdemeanor penalty, which is punishable by up to $1,000 or 90 days in jail. That's what the business owners are looking at, and it's on a complaint basis. And I'm certain that you can prioritize those calls along with your other calls, as you had indicated before. But individuals that are in public, I'm not sure what the police department is intending to do under those circumstances. If an individual doesn't have a mask with them and you don't have PPE to hand out, the person would continue to be out of compliance with the public health issues. So I think you have to really ask yourselves what you're going to do with the general public when you address the general public, because you are a border community and it's not mandatory in Wisconsin. So if a person's not prepared with a mask, what are you going to do about it, and how are you going to handle it? Issuing citations, petty misdemeanor citations, they're generally payable. So they wouldn't require going to a court appearance. They would be issued a citation up to $100 fine, and they would make arrangements at the Washington County Court Administration to pay it. That's generally how those would be enforced. I think education and compliance are the two key factors that you're looking at. I don't believe anyone is looking to make criminals out of people who may have, one, made a mistake or been temporarily lazy. We'll try to work with the police department to encourage compliance all the way through the process.
What about having signage that's consistent across the city that says masks are required to enter? That takes some of the burden off of the business owners. One, preparing signage. Two, having it be inconsistent wording from one to the next that we could make available as chief goes around for everyone to post. That way, before a person even enters our businesses, they would be reminded that a mask is required. I don't want the business owners, if they and their staffs are complying, I don't want them to have to turn into police either. So if we could have that first line of defense, is that something that we could do and do fairly quickly?
The state already has materials that can be downloaded, so we don't have to design anything.
Okay, so
Yeah,
But it could be printed and handed out to make it easy.
I think that would be a good idea. Chief, can you add that to the things that you deliver to them?
Sure.
I don't want them to have to turn into police. Anything that's consistent, I think, is going to help. If it's not just one business versus another, it's not Bayport versus Stillwater, or, so at least we can do what we can do across on our side of the river.
But it could be printed and handed out to make it easy.
I think that would be a good idea, Chief.
State has on their website
the things that you deliver to them.
materials regarding for the masks that we can
Anything
print
that's
off and
consistent, I
provide
think,
to
is going to
businesses.
help.
And I believe that they can also request masks, like masks themselves to hand out at businesses, right? And I think the chamber even has masks for businesses. So I don't think we'll have a shortage of masks, and hopefully the police can have some too if they need to get involved. But it sounds like they're hoping that it's dealt with at the business level based on what I read, and only when it gets to a point where the customer really isn't agreeable that they would call law enforcement in. So the way it's explained in the frequently asked questions document. Can have some too if they need to get involved, but it sounds like they're hoping that it's dealt with at the business level based on what I read.
Other questions, other ideas?
To a point where
no, I think we're on the right track. I don't know if it's appropriate time to segue, but
that they would call law enforcement.
for those of you that don't know, I'm employed at Anderson Corporation in Bayport.
Frequently asked questions.
And something, I've got a visual aid. These have replaced masks in the factory, and that's going to, the way I read the executive order, something like this doesn't fall within the regulation, and so that's something else, is having somebody, wearing it properly, if at all. So something's going to have to change really fast here at Anderson between today and Monday when people start showing up for work. That's just another.
I thought it was actually, it said if it helps to do your job, you could wear that type of face covering instead, but maybe I misread that. But
so that's something else.
I skimmed it.
I mean, I could pull it up here and read it.
Yeah.
It's, when they define a face covering, they describe it, and I think there are exceptions, but I think you'd be hard pressed if you had a very strenuous job, which, boy, I wouldn't categorize many, if any, of the jobs down here as very strenuous. So, and don't quote me on that wording. That's a challenge I see too, is that people actually wearing the masks, the proper equipment.
John, were those plastic shields, those were given out by Anderson's in replacement of the mask? Is that what that was?
They were, they were given out. I wasn't told anything specifically, but they're being.
I just know you have a mask hanging on your face.
Yeah, yep. I'm in the shop now. I'm the only person in the shop, so I'm at my bench here. But yeah, I choose to wear the fabric mask. I think it's the face shield, to me, just from a common sense standpoint, doesn't look nearly as effective as wearing a fabric mask that actually stops things in close rather than getting things out at all, even if it's 3 inches from your face.
Yeah. Okay.
People are wearing them in place of a fabric mask, and you certainly can wear the face mask or the face shield, but you're still required to wear the face covering.
In the senior living facility that I'm most familiar with, they wear both.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's some places I know do too.
I think most
Some of the airlines
situations, that's what people do.
Hey, John, page 2, and it's under exempt, and it's the last bullet point, but you have to also go to the website for clarification guideline.
Thanks, Chief. I'm going to check that out.
Councilmember Dahl, if I might, you are correct that face shield does not meet the definition of face covering in the definition section of the emergency order.
I think it's only for people who say they have a medical condition or whatever, then you can.
Yeah, that's what I thought I'd read, a medical
I read too fast before, so.
Or a safety issue, I thought I read something, but.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I have a question on that safety issues, because there's times in the fire department where we get called, or obviously we can't wear masks when we're switching back and forth for self-contained breathing apparatus. But I thought I also read in there that if there's safety concerns where we can't have people muffled, communicate with them, so there are going to be times at the fire scene.
Yeah, I can't hear.
Chief, you're cutting in and out. If you could speak louder or more directly.
My mic must be acting up with this, but I thought I read, I looked at it and I thought if there's a case of emergency where you need to communicate effectively without being muffled.
So Tom, your interpretation for those emergency situations when our public safety staff is out dealing with situations, what's your interpretation there?
I'm fairly certain they're not going to be charged with a crime.
Very good.
Madam Mayor, on page 7 of the executive order, one of the exemptions is when a public safety worker is actively engaged in a public safety role, including but not limited to law enforcement, firefighters, etc., where wearing a face covering would seriously interfere in the performance of their public safety responsibilities. So it's specifically called out an exemption.
Okay. Any other ideas of what we could do to assist the community at large? We have a lot of nonprofits. We're hoping to open up our schools. School is like a month away. Anything else that we can or should be doing to educate, provide, do anything that makes it easier?
Yeah, yes, Mayor. One of the things I've noticed here, and Adam and I haven't had a discussion about this yet, but I can't recall, Adam, maybe you know off the top of your head, the CARES funding that the city was allocated. It's quite a bit of money, really, for the allocations, and that's a fairly broad usage of that money to help with even the city's payroll, but then providing public safety, personal protective equipment, and other things to others in the community, and then also a grant program to businesses that have been affected by COVID, which is everybody pretty much. There are some strings with that as far as if the money is used improperly, then the city, under some regulations, just needs to be careful about how that's parceled out and whether some liability might attach later, and we could maybe work through that if the city's interested to do that. But there are plenty of opportunities, and there's a pretty good discussion on the city attorney website that I've been following of other cities starting these grant programs. Of course, you have cities that have EDAs and HRAs, and they handle a lot of this stuff to begin with. Bayport doesn't have that, but that doesn't stop you from reaching out with some seed money into the community. That's something the council would like to consider.
Yeah, I was actually on my local government administrators meeting today that I was leading for the county, and that was the main topic of that. So we got some additional guidance. We do have quite a bit of money. I think that actually our costs will be, there will be city expenses, a lot more than I initially thought that we were going to be eligible or even capable of expending. But so with the strings attached to the money that we actually would be able to provide to the businesses, that's going to be a little bit more restricted, but we did get some good ideas that we're going to bring forth to the council. And something as simple as just making masks available to the public. Masks aren't expensive. There doesn't seem to be a shortage of them, but just, perhaps little things where someone, if there's a mask and they forget their mask and they're in town, they can go to, the city hall. We have a booth in the vestibule to pick up a mask or something. We can do that. People can come to City Hall and get masks for their own use. The business grants, we're still getting some additional guidance on that. But there are additional city expenses that are eligible that we're learning. So that's kind of an evolving area.
I would like to enhance the special area on our website to post all of these current guidelines and the signs that businesses can download easily, making all of this public information accessible, and any steps that we are offering to be clearly identified for people to take advantage of. So we
Sarah
can make
and I
that.
had a 20-minute conversation about the website today. So.
Okay, excellent.
What about, we already talked about signage, and, I know sometimes, people kind of do the best they can with, printing something off of, a copy or something, but maybe, thinking something along the lines of like our political signs on the corrugated plastic. Maybe we put an order in and make, 50 of those up, and so we kind of have a nice standard sign that's given out to our businesses, and I don't know, maybe the businesses aren't interested or don't want to hang those up, but to me it seemed something that would be weather resistant, not just a piece of paper stuck up with some masking tape, and very reasonable cost wise to do something like that.
At a minimum, they should be laminated at least so that they weather the being posted.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Because if you're going to post something on the outside of your business, you want it to be there for a while so you're not having to change it every other day with a new one. That's a good idea, John.
Yeah, I like the idea of the corrugated. Maybe not, we'll have to check into sizes. I'll leave that up to city staff, but that does take a few weeks to get actually processed. So maybe if we could do some quick laminated ones first and get those out, that would be great.
Sounds good. Is in a situation like this, in Connie, I think you'd be the only person here, kind of, put your business owner hat on. Is it helpful in a situation like this to have sort of an open forum with the businesses and see or reach out to them via email or however? How can we help? How can we as a city help? I don't own a business. I don't know what kinds of things. I
think maybe to get the word, I guess, yes, on one hand, it would be, John, because if you're making it out there for everybody as an open forum for all the businesses, making it clear that this is what we expect from everyone, and that they see everybody's on the same page. Like I say, I guess we've been one step ahead, but just because, I don't know, we just have the same people coming in and out, so I have a little bit more ease on asking my parents to wear their mask when they're dropping and picking up and stuff. And so far, even though I know some of them don't wear it on a regular basis, I haven't had a lot of kickback with them doing it on our time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think if people are reminded that this is not going to be forever, this is for a until we get the vaccines and things are stabilized, then we can relax and go back. So if, the faster everyone does their part now, hopefully the shorter duration we will have going forward, and that the vaccine will be on the horizon. But until then, I mean, the numbers across the United States that are still contracting, they're contracting it from other people who are not shielding their germs from others. So I'm hoping that people will realize if they do their part, it can help the economy, and it can help loved ones and friends that they could be impacted. Anything else that we should consider? Sarah, I know that you're always a creative and a good comms person. Do you have any additional ideas or things that you think that we should start with?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Adam and I had a really good conversation today, and I talked with Mary and Chantel also to see if businesses have been soliciting help from City Hall, and they both said they haven't heard from anyone. But I think that Laura's offer to go meet with the individual business owners would go a long ways. Some of the other ideas that people have mentioned, I think those are good ways. Adam and I talked about providing the extra masks. I've asked Mary to order some additional masks to have those on hand for businesses and people that need that as a resource. So I think all the other ideas that have already been mentioned are really thoughtful, and I think we should put some of those into play.
Okay.
Well, and I guess I know it puts a lot on Laura's plate, but as a business owner, I think if you had the chief come in and sit down and explain what's going to be expected, I think that'll go a long way than just not being informed. Well, they should be informed, but not a personal explanation, I think. So even though I know it's going to be a lot more on Laura or her officers, I think as a business owner, I would appreciate them coming in and explaining what's expected of me.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I'm also concerned about how we make it clear to the people visiting those businesses what's expected, so that there isn't as much of a burden on the business owners to explain it to them. And I don't know if there's a simplified kind of bullet point thing we could put together that we've put on, or send out to our listserv and put on our Facebook page and whatever,
But I think with the sign being out,
we all had questions, right?
Yeah. But I think with the signs being out front of the businesses, that'll help too. Saying
But like
that they're
for me, I was like, well, do I want to go eat at a restaurant, or am I going to have to try to eat around a mask? Like that's just like a question that popped into my head. I don't get it. Where do I have to still wear a mask while I'm at the restaurant? So just kind of getting that word out so that people aren't afraid to go out to have a drink or eat or whatever.
See, and I think that's it is very cut and dry when we're going into, a gas station or an insurance agent or the doctor's office, but it is not as clear in restaurants and in bars. So Tom and Chief, do you have any, general guidance? We are public on this meeting, and we have the chance to influence people right now. And Michelle, I don't think it's a bad idea to maybe offer that, at least that language to the businesses, because many of them are now using paper menus or downloadable menus on your phone, or they have it on a big screen. And I think that having that guidance available there where people could refresh their memories of, you know, what am I supposed to do here?
Oh, yeah.
That would probably be very helpful. Really good idea, Michelle. So
Can I jump in? Oh,
sure.
sorry.
No,
Before,
go ahead.
Chief or Tom, I've been watching I was watching the press conference today, and in terms of restaurants, they were very specific about when you enter, you should have your mask on. When you're moving about the restaurant, you should have your mask on. When you're interacting with your server at your table, you should have your mask on. And then while you're eating, of course, you can have a mask on. But really, the only time you should not have a mask on when you're in a restaurant is when you're eating and drinking and seated. If you get up to use the restroom, you're expected to put your mask on.
What if you choose to eat on the patio? Is it still the same?
I don't know, and I haven't gotten through the
Yeah, I know. So that's why I just want to make sure those things are clear to everybody. So if there's a
What
way
did Adam say? I didn't hear what he said. What was Adam's response?
It's only the indoor dining, or if it's outdoor where they're not socially distanced.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
That's what I read too, but I feel like people aren't going to take the time to read those details. So we need to simplify it. So whatever questions popped into our heads are the questions that are going to pop into other people's heads.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and maybe that's where, you know, I would hope the business owners, and maybe that's something we can do, is have a, you know, frequently asked questions or just a bullet point sheet that they hand out with the menu of how it's handled. Here's what
I kind of want to do it the step before that though, because we need to make them not reluctant to go to the restaurant. So we need to get the word out when they're choosing and they don't go to Hudson instead of Bayport, because they know in Hudson they don't have to worry about it. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're already having trouble getting people to come to Bayport because of the construction. I don't want this to be one more thing that they are like, oh, well, it's easier to just go to Hudson because we know whatever, it's not as strict. Or
well, wouldn't that lend itself to my idea of once they're in and seated, when you're handed a menu, you're also handed a, you know, kind of an expectation, or when you meet the hostess, this is.
But they're not even going to choose our restaurant, is what I'm saying. If they're already deciding that it's too much of a burden because they don't understand how it works, that yeah, they could sit outside and not have to wear a mask on our patio. Every restaurant we have has outdoor seating, right? But they may not even get to that point of getting it handed to them if they're choosing some other town's restaurants. I just want to make sure we're getting the word out. And I don't know how many people are engaged with our, you know, listserv, and our Facebook doesn't seem to get a lot of comments and likes on it and that kind of thing. But we've got the sounding board where there's a lot of people that are definitely engaged, and other places we can just make sure it's clear to people. I feel like we need to get ahead of them choosing to avoid our town or our state.
Madam Mayor, if I might add one thing. There are so many different circumstances. This is a 14-page order from the governor. There are 10 separate temporary situations where face coverings can be removed. Giving people the information that they need, I think one of the most important, you're not going to be complete in whatever you're going to publish. So I think you also need to give them some reference material and know where to go to for a more complete list. And I think this is going to be an education process along the way, that there's no one sign that's going to cover everything for restaurants, or whether or not you're sitting in an office alone, if your cubicles go above your head, if you have a door that closes. There are so many different circumstances that I don't think the city can effectively instruct people, and they may think that's a limited or an all-inclusive list. So what I would just suggest that whatever you do, also give them access or direction to the state's actual published information, because it's going to be very difficult to communicate all of those situations that are exceptions.
Yeah, I understand that, Tom, and thanks. I agree that it's good to have that. I think, though, that my concern is with the customer-facing businesses, that the customers understand what's required of them going into that. Because I think if you're talking about, Anderson Windows, internally, they're going to have their own, distribution of that information. But when it's, Wilder Scratch Kitchen and people want to go eat there, do they understand what's required of them when they go there?
Maybe.
I think there's a few, like, even bread art, yeah, you have to wear a mask when you go into bread art, but do you have to wear a mask if you're going to go have a drink on the patio at Manger? No. If you're socially distanced.
Please don't take what I said. It isn't in saying don't give some information.
Yeah, I understand what
all
you're
I'm saying is make sure that they know it's not an all-inclusive list.
Yes, I understand.
When you're giving restaurants and or customer-facing businesses that information, that's all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think in the restaurants, it sounds like we could basically summarize, if you're interfacing or moving about the facility that's not with your immediate party, please, adhere to the mask policy. Right. And if you're seated with your party, then enjoy your meal and conversation. It's indoors. Mm-hmm. Even outdoors, though, I'd appreciate if people are walking right behind my table that they be maybe wearing a mask, but it's not governed. So we have to appeal to people's sense of community and safety, and not make this so that it's not going to be forever. And the more that we do our part now, the shorter this hopefully will take, go away. Good ideas though, Michelle and Sarah and Chief Eastman and Adam, maybe you can figure out if there's any additional things that could or should be communicated and distributed in that process. So, and Michelle, if you have ideas of different places to post, if you could just get in touch with Sarah, that'd be great. Every idea is welcome.
Would, in terms of not burdening Chief too much, would maybe Michelle, you could speak for BCal, and not to throw it on you guys, but could you guys help out with some of that? I'd even be willing to go around to businesses and interface with them and let them, kind of go through the rules if we had some sort of a.
I think that might be a really good idea, but when this comes as a governance from the state, I think we may want to defer to people who are in that role and experts. I think we could act as ambassadors when we're going around and just, offer, do you need any help? Do you need any more information? Let me put you in touch, that kind of thing. But Chief, go ahead. I think you were going to say something.
Well, I don't want to go in the store. That's the thing.
I say when I go.
Connie.
Thank you.
Sorry. I was just going to say, Mayor, when I do go around, I'm actually going to take this order, highlight, the important facts, and it's just going to be, a wonderful contact. I'll just say, we just want to make sure that you continue to thrive, and it'll be a very pleasant conversation, and I'll hand this out just like I do with new businesses that have an alcohol license. I talk about our annual compliance checks that we do and those kind of things, if that makes sense. So they're not surprised. And I agree with you, Mayor. I think it does. I appreciate your offer, Councilmember Dahl and Hanson, but I do think it probably needs to be me that does it. And like I said, I'm happy to do it. And I'd rather do that. And then if we do have to enforce some things or the state comes down on them, we can actually say, I did meet with you, and now it's their obligation to, speak to the rest of their staff there at the business. So
I think that's a good idea. Thank you. And documenting, and keeping track of, when those visits took place. But I do think, John, that we as council members can be role models and ambassadors to help so that when we're out and about, that we're setting an example as well.
Absolutely.
Connie, you're on mute.
I think Adam did that because we could hear you having a side conversation.
Did I mute myself? Who knows?
No, Adam did it.
Oh, Adam muted me, huh?
Big brother.
So
Okay, well, I was arguing with a 2-year-old, so no, not really. I guess I was, well, as you guys were talking, I agree. I think it's better. Laura, I feel, has a really good rapport with the residents and the businesses, so I think it'd be great if she went out and, not that I want to give her any more to do either, but I just think it's a better idea that way.
This meeting is Wednesday afternoon, and it's currently almost 5 p.m. And this goes into effect starting Saturday morning. So, Chief, do you think that gives you adequate time to get to at least the majority?
It gives me tomorrow and Friday. So I think I can. It's just being here, getting down here. I already talked to Mary Tickner about it. I already provided this to her. So I already started that right away at release some of that. So, even on the way home, and I'm in plain clothes, but sometimes that's best. They need to see that we're truly just humans that want to help them succeed. And I think people know that about me. So it's just another opportunity for me to meet and greet them. So I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
Thank you,
Something
Chief.
yeah, that's really appreciated. John, I'm sorry. John and Michelle.
I was just thanking.
Just saying thank you, yeah. We should have like a little like button or something, a little applause.
So I've gone beyond our city borders to eat, and something that does sometimes concern me are how frequent people who are in our customer facing do cleanse their masks, and the hygiene of those as well. I don't know if there's anything that business owners can do to ensure that those are rotated properly, or just the education process of ensuring that all standards of health, including those masks, is important.
So Adam, I have a question. When will we have more information or more time to discuss the grant opportunities and things for our businesses? And I assume you've been doing some research and trying to figure that out.
For me. In my throat. Yeah, so originally that was going to be, I was going to have basically a proposal at the August 3rd meeting. I'm still working on that. I sat in, like I said, a meeting today, and I've got a couple of meetings scheduled where I'm learning more. Excuse me. I'll have an update at the August 3rd meeting. I learned today, like I said, there's some additional city expenses that we're able to include. So I think the amount that we will be able to have available for non-city government is a different amount. It's both good and bad, but some of the other restrictions or the requirements that the money that we distribute or give out, there's a little more there's a little more stringent requirements for that. It's not as just we're going to cut a check to every business or entity organization. So I'm getting more clarifying information. But by September or mid-August, the council, so that'll still give us a couple months to actually expend the money. So that's within the next month. If not at the August 3rd meeting, for sure before the September meeting, we'll have it basically up and running.
The sooner the better.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree. And having a chance to talk to our local businesses would probably be helpful. I don't know if you've been doing that, but just to see what it is that they think would be helpful, so we understand their needs. Because we've got Connie, and Heather was here. I don't know where she went, but it would have been helpful to hear what she had to say. Other than obviously the construction is not wonderful, but maybe it's actually not a bad thing to have that now because we can hopefully do some grants or things to help them, and maybe it's good it came at that same time, or else we would have had maybe 2 summers that were tough on them. So,
Yeah.
you know,
we haven't actually received the money yet. So that's another thing that we have to have wait till the money's here to start spending it. But we did just get our first half of our tax payment, so we've got money in the bank. But there's just been a lot of moving parts, and then a lot of other issues that have been taking up time.
Adam, at your meeting, did you hear from any of the other cities around us or the county itself of other things that they're doing currently or plan to do to assist their businesses just in this whole communications? And, you know, we're talking about signage and our website and pretty, is there anything else that we're missing that others are doing?
No, there were, I have to go back. I don't have that notepad with me. Because we can't, it's not for, loss of revenue. We're not able to reimburse the businesses that, because they, obviously not because of the construction, but because they were shut down during COVID, they didn't, sell as many widgets. We're not able to compensate them for that. It's really, there's a 3-pronged test that we have to go through for all of whatever expenses we want to be able to assist them with. The county has they have a $10 million business program that they're rolling out, and they're still in the process of doing that. That some of the cities are piggybacking off of, either doing the same criteria or kind of filling the gap that may be left from that. There really isn't, the things that we've been talking about, both staff and at the very high level, at the council level, is what a lot of the cities are doing for the businesses. Most of the, I know the sound, a lot of the money sounds like a lot. Some of the public safety costs that we're able to, there's still not a debate, but a discussion over what exactly is able to be included in that. Some of the cities believe that it's going to be all the police and fire wages during this entire period will be able to be covered. That's, again, not for certain. So we're still waiting to get some guidance. So the program was rolled out incredibly quickly to get money to the states, and then the state, turned around relatively quickly, got it to the local governments. But the guidance as far as what is eligible is still, that was very broad, and it's starting to narrow down. There's quite a bit of concern from a lot of the cities over when the audit comes and you're found that 40% of what you thought was going to be eligible, now you have to repay that. So a lot of the cities are being very conservative right now, and there isn't a lot of specifics. So I am still, we should have that soon. I understand that sooner is better. So we are planning on talking to the businesses and using what I did get some good information. I'm sorry I don't have that notebook with me right now.
Well, even just having a list so that once we sit down at the table that we can say and narrow it down, yes, no, or this is what we heard consistently, or because otherwise we're starting from scratch in a month or two, even though we have guidance at that point. And,
we'll have
whatever we can
program.
do to, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, anything else we should cover or have not covered? From a public safety perspective, Chief in Chief, are you comfortable with where we're at?
Fire is.
Fire is, thank you.
Something's wrong with my mic, I think.
Okay, thumbs up, good. Thank you, Chief Eastman. Tom and Andy, do we have everything from your legal perspective of what we need to make sure that we're compliant and helpful and communicating very clearly so that we don't contribute to any confusion?
Yeah, Mayor, that I would just echo what Adam had said about additional guidance is forthcoming. There's a the three-part test that Adam talked about essentially is the following. The expenditures need to be necessary because they've been incurred due to the public health emergency. Okay, that's very broad. You could assume that police and fire expenditures, a lot of that are incurred due to this public health emergency. So that's step one. Step two is the costs cannot already be accounted for in the city's budget as of March 27th. So they're sort of costs have just arisen in the last few months unexpectedly. And then the actual delivery of these services that are going to be covered by the money has to happen by November 15th of this year. So they have to be spent within that time. And so that's a three-part test that the league guidance just says the city should document the reasons the expenses were determined to satisfy this test. And then later on, when you're with the auditors and there's concerns about how audits are going to take this into account next year, it's just going to show the council's consideration of this three-part test and of all the other things that have gone into this. And that's all a part of the program that the council may consider later on.
From a prosecution standpoint, we'll work closely with Chief Eastman and try to enforce the policies as defined by the city council going forward and try to ensure compliance.
Council members, anything else?
None for mine.
We're pretty good. I mean, we'll be the August meeting. I imagine COVID and those items are going to be. Some of those items might be on the agenda, maybe not. But I'm good for now.
Okay. Shall I comment?
I'm good too.
And Adam and Sarah, anything from admin side? Anything that you need from us?
I don't believe so. We were expecting to possibly need to work on an ordinance or discuss doing a different action. The state acting definitely helped that free up some of our time to work on other things. I think we have. I know Chief Eastman volunteered for a lot of work, so we'll be helping her accomplish that. So I think we have our direction.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thanks to both Mary Chantel, the whole team, in addition to Sarah and yourself, Adam. All right. Anything else that looks like we've had a couple of guests. I hope that their questions have been addressed as well. And with that, is there any other further business for this special meeting? And if not, would someone like to make a motion?
We adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Connie. We have to do a roll call. So Adam, please call the roll.
Mayor Sinors.
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson.
Aye.
Councilmember Carlson.
Aye.
Councilmember Dahl. Ayes all.
Excellent. Thank you all very much. Good conversation. Keep the ideas coming. And staff, just let us know if you need anything. So, and we'll try to be good ambassadors. So thank you all so much.
Stay safe.
Thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks, John.
Wear your mask.
Yeah.
Bye, Adam.
Have a good night.